All right, Premier League Matchday 21 is here. And look, we're not just going to throw predictions at you. Nope, we're going to give you the data-driven strategy behind it all. So let's dive right in. Okay, so what's the actual game plan? Well, the core strategy here is all about smart risk management. You can think of it like a little investment portfolio for the weekend's matches. We're putting 45% on our banker. That's our most confident pick. Then 35% goes to the value play, where the data says the odds are looking pretty sweet. And to top it off, a very important 20% is set aside for our safety net, just to play it smart. So let's break that down. What do these tiers, banker, value play, and safety net actually mean when we're talking about the games this weekend? Because believe me, these aren't just random guesses. These are the 3 spots where the data is practically yelling at us.
All right, here's the nitty-gritty. Our banker? It's Manchester City to win. Simple as that. The value play is pointing straight at Everton for a win at home. And for our safety net, we've got Brentford. But, and this is key, with a draw, no bet. So what's that mean? Well, if the game's a draw, you get your money back. It's a really clever way to lower the risk on a match that could go either way. See? It's all about that perfect balance between confidence and just being cautious.
So why City as the banker? Well, it's built on a truly incredible statistic. Get this, Manchester City is unbeaten in their last 22, that's 2-2, mid-week home games. That's not just a lucky streak, folks. That's a fortress. And what the data is telling us is that this holds up even when they're mixing things up, rotating key players like Diaz and Guardiola. It's probably the most reliable trend in the entire league right now. Okay, so we've got our top 3 picks. Now, let's zoom out a bit and look at the full slate of games. How do these picks fit into the whole shebang for Matchday 21?
Now, what's really interesting here is that confidence column. Yeah, City is way up there at 88%, no surprise, but look at Everton, 84% confidence. The model is seeing a massive difference between how solid they are at home and how much Wolves struggle on the road. And you can see the same kind of logic for Aston Villa. Their crazy high-scoring streak makes that over 2.5 goals bet look really, really solid. You see? The data is telling a much deeper story than just who's going to win.
So yeah, it's one thing to see the predictions, but it's another thing to understand why the model is making them, right? We've got to dig into the hidden story, the specific analytical factors that the data is flagging for us this week. Okay, first up is a concept the report calls the home fortress factor. And no, this isn't just your regular old home field advantage. It's a very specific metric that measures how defensively tough a team is at home. And this week, it's the absolute foundation for the Man City and Everton predictions. These teams are they're like a brick wall on their own pitch. And then you've got the total opposite of that. The model calls it structural collapse. It's exactly what it sounds like. A team that just consistently fails to hold its defensive shape, especially when the pressure's on. You can picture it, right? It's like a leaky defense that's just waiting to spring a major leak. And the data is screaming that this is a huge problem for teams like Wolves and Burnley this week. And this right here just lays it out perfectly. It's a tale of 2 extremes, isn't it? On one side, you've got these home fortress teams, Man City and Everton. And on the other, you've got teams showing signs of structural collapse, Wolves and Burnley. It's a massive contrast, and the numbers are definitely picking a side. But it's not all about team structure. There's another hidden factor at play here, and this one has nothing to do with tactics. It's all about pure stamina and, well, who's even available to play. And boy, is it hitting a couple of teams hard this week. And what is it? It's a huge player availability gap, mostly thanks to the Africa Cup of Nations tournament. I mean, look at this. Sunderland is missing 6 players, Tottenham is just stretched so thin with injuries, and key guys like Basuma and Sargon. The report calls this a rotation gap, which basically means their squad depth is shot. They just can't keep up the intensity. They're pretty much running on empty. Here's another little tactical nugget the report points out, something to watch for in the City and Villa games. It's called the 60-minute cooling rule. So think about it. These teams have a crazy busy schedule coming up. If they get a comfortable lead, say 2 goals up after the 60-minute mark, don't be surprised if they take their foot off the gas. They'll just look to conserve energy and cruise to the finish. It's a smart tactical move for sure, but it definitely changes the game. And finally, there's one last variable we absolutely cannot ignore, because it affects every single player on the pitch. Yep, I'm talking about the weather. For those northern games, think Newcastle, Burnley, the temperature is expected to plummet to just 4 degrees Celsius. That's cold. So what happens when it gets that cold? Well, the analysis calls these high-friction games. The pitch gets heavy, the ball moves slower, players get tired way faster, And what does all that lead to? Slower play and fewer goals. It's kind of like trying to play in slow motion. And that's exactly why the report suggests that looking at under 3.5 goals for these northern matches is a really, really solid secondary safety net. Okay, that was a lot of data. So let's pull it all together. What are the big strategic takeaways you need to remember from all this? So here's what it all boils down to. You've got to look for those home fortress teams like City and Everton. At the same time, be really careful with teams showing that structural collapse, like Wolves and Burnley. You absolutely have to factor in that huge fatigue and AFCON gap for teams like Sunderland and Spurs. And last but not least, don't forget how that cold weather can really slow things down and keep the score low. It's a full strategy, not just one single thing. Look, at the end of the day, all this data gives you a really powerful framework. It's a way to cut through all the usual noise and just focus on what really matters this weekend. The data has its strategy all laid out. The big question is, what's yours going to be?